You saved $40 today. The tag said 120. You paid 80. You walked out of the store feeling something that is hard to name precisely, but that sits somewhere between satisfaction and relief. Like you had beaten the system. Like the universe had briefly tilted in your favor and you had been sharp enough to notice. You were not planning to buy it this morning. You walked in for something else, or maybe you were just browsing. But then you saw the number that it used to cost and the number that it costs now, and something clicked. The math felt obvious. The decision felt easy. You felt for a moment genuinely good at money. That feeling has a name, and it is one of the most thoroughly documented and deliberately engineered experiences in all of consumer psychology. To understand what actually happened, you have to understand one of the most powerful and consistent findings in the science of human judgment. It is called the anchoring effect, and it was documented in detail by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, the same researchers whose work on loss aversion and prospect theory changed how economists and psychologists understand financial decision-making. Here is the core of it. When your brain is given an initial number, that number becomes a reference point for everything that follows. Not because it is meaningful, not because it reflects anything real about the value of what you are evaluating, simply because it was first. Your brain takes the first number it encounters and uses it as an anchor. All subsequent judgments are made in relation to that anchor. Adjustments happen, but they are almost always insufficient. You move away from the anchor, but you never move far enough. In the context of a price tag, this means the following. The original price, the number that has been crossed out or displayed in gray beside the sale price, is not information about what the item is worth. It is a psychological device. It tells your brain where to start thinking. And once your brain has started there, the sale price does not feel like a standalone number. It feels like a reduction, a gap, a gift. Kahneman and Tversky demonstrated the anchoring effect across dozens of experiments in contexts far removed from retail shopping. In one well-known study, participants were asked to spin a wheel that landed on a random number and were then asked to estimate unrelated quantities. The random number from the wheel reliably influenced their estimates, even though the participants understood the number was arbitrary. The anchor pulled their judgments toward it regardless of its relevance. This is how automatic and unconscious the anchoring process is. It does not require the anchor to be credible. It does not require you to believe the original number was accurate. The mere presence of the number is enough to shape what comes after. Richard Thaler, the behavioral economist who won the Nobel Prize in 2017, added an important layer to this with a concept he called transaction utility. Thaler observed that when people make a purchase, they are actually evaluating two separate things simultaneously, even if they are not aware of it. The first is acquisition utility, which is roughly the actual value of the thing they are getting relative to what they paid. The second is transaction utility, which is the feeling of whether the deal itself was good or bad, regardless of what they actually got. Transaction utility is the pleasure or pain of the transaction as an event, separate from the object of the transaction. When you buy something at a significant discount from its listed price, you experience positive transaction utility. You did not just acquire an object. You won a negotiation with the universe. The deal itself felt good, independent of whether the object was something you wanted or needed. This is why people buy things on sale that they would not have bought at full price and feel better about the purchase, not worse. The transaction utility added by the discount can overwhelm the acquisition utility calculation entirely. You are not evaluating whether this object is worth $80 to you. You are evaluating whether saving $40 from a $120 anchor feels good. And it does. Almost always. Dan Ariely, a behavioral economist who has spent years studying the irrational logic of human decision-making, developed a related concept he called arbitrary coherence. His research found that the prices we are willing to pay for things are not derived from some internal sense of what those things are worth. Instead, they are constructed in relation to the prices we have already seen. The first price you encounter for a category of product becomes the reference point against which all future prices in that category are evaluated. This means that a retailer who establishes a high anchor price before revealing a sale price is not simply discounting an item. They are constructing the entire framework within which you will evaluate the transaction. The anchor is not neutral information. It is the first move in a deliberate psychological sequence. Ariely's research showed that this process is so powerful that even arbitrary anchors with no relationship to actual value can shape what people are willing to pay. When participants in his studies were shown high random numbers before being asked to bid on items, they bid significantly higher than participants shown low random numbers. The anchor did not inform their sense of value. It created it. Modern retail is built on this architecture. The original retail price, the MSRP, the was price beside the now price, the percentage off badge, the crossed out number in a different color. These are not honest descriptions of price history. In many cases, the original price was never the actual selling price, or it was the actual selling price for only a brief window specifically designed to establish the anchor. The sale is not a temporary reduction from a stable original price. The sale is the price. The original price is the setup. Black Friday is perhaps the most visible annual demonstration of this. The framing of the day creates an expectation of extreme discounts, which activates the anchoring process at scale. Research consistently shows that many Black Friday prices are not lower than prices available at other times of the year, or are lower by significantly less than the stated discount implies. But the transaction utility of the event, the feeling of participating in a mass opportunity, of capturing value in a limited window, generates spending that vastly outweighs the actual savings produced. The mechanism extends well beyond retail. Anchoring shapes salary negotiations. The first number named in a salary discussion functions as an anchor that pulls the final agreed number toward it, regardless of which party named it. It shapes real estate transactions. The listing price of a property is an anchor that influences the offers buyers make, even when buyers are aware of comparable sales data that would suggest a very different number. It shapes the way people evaluate fees, subscription prices, service costs, and almost any other context where a numerical reference point is introduced before a decision is made. Thaler's concept of transaction utility also explains a pattern that otherwise looks irrational. People will drive across town to save $5 on a $20 item, but will not drive the same distance to save $5 on a $500 item. The absolute saving is identical, but relative to the anchor, it feels different. $5 off 20 is a meaningful percentage. $5 off 500 is barely visible. The math is the same. The feeling is not. Morgan Housel, who wrote The Psychology of Money, makes a point that is directly relevant here. He argues that building wealth has less to do with how much you earn and everything to do with how much you keep. The gap between what comes in and what goes out is where financial security is actually constructed. Anything that creates the feeling of financial progress without producing it is closing that gap without your awareness. Saving $40 on a $120 item that you were not going to buy is not saving $40. It is spending $80. The transaction utility is real, the satisfaction is genuine. But it exists alongside the objective fact that money left your account for something that was not in your plan, and the emotional experience of the transaction made that feel like a win. This is not an argument against ever buying things on sale. The anchoring effect is not an invitation to pay full price for everything. It is an invitation to ask a different question before the transaction utility of a good deal overrides everything else. The question is not how much did I save. The question is whether I would have wanted this at the price I actually paid, with no knowledge of the original price at all. If the answer is yes, the discount is genuinely useful information. It means you got something you wanted at a better price than you might have paid. If the answer is no, or if you are not sure, the original price has done its work. It has manufactured a context that made a spending decision feel like a saving decision. The feeling is not a flaw. It is a predictable output of a system that has been carefully designed to produce it. Knowing that does not make the feeling disappear, but it creates a small delay between the moment the anchor lands and the moment you open your wallet. And in that delay, a slightly more useful question becomes available. You saved $40 today. The question is what it cost you to do it.